Good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the Namaste experience. It is our silent day here at Namaste Village, so we're going to keep it very gentle. Unless that's not the plan, and something erupts in the midst of this holy, sacred gathering, these mighty companions that just takes us like a river. It melts us like lava. We will see. In other words, we're not going to plan anything. We're just going to allow it to unplan us. It's all our plans that have gotten in the way of this Namaste experience after all. You know, if you're following A Course in Miracles, there's a set of review lessons that we're under. And the review begins with this introduction. It says, "Words will mean little now. We use them but as guides on which we do not depend. For now we seek direct experience of truth alone." Direct experience. But I thought it was interesting that we use words as guides that we don't depend upon. Imagine going on a journey to a place that you don't know, and you have a guide. You hire a guide. You even pay for this guide, but you don't depend upon them. You don't listen to them. It's interesting. Because we're not seeking anything but an experience that lifts us above all of the seeming guidance of these perceptual forms and all of these ideas and concepts into the experience where all of them just dissolve. So this morning I was thinking about the question, are we here to contain this experience, or are we here to allow it to be expanding without limits, unlimited expansion? In other words, when we come into this high bright association, when something begins to awaken in us, are we here to try and pull it in and, okay, now I need to protect it and hold on to it and claim it? Or let it expand without limits? And one of the contexts in which we see this choice is in the original Christian community. You had two primary camps, you could say. You had the Jewish, Jerusalem-based camp, led primarily by James, the brother of Jesus, and Peter. And they were seeking to contain the experience. It was very much a Jewish phenomenon. In fact, for the most part, until a little bit later, in the beginning, it was just accepted as just, oh, those crazy Jews over here following that Jesus guy. But it was very much contained within the Jewish experience, and that's what James wanted. He was the leader of the Jerusalem church, and it was all about keeping it contained within a religious context. Now, me as an Episcopal priest, I understand that, but I don't buy it. I understand the need that some of us have to limit and contain and to have a little book, a prayer book, or whatever the form is that we say, no, it's got to be through here. It's got to be in this way. I understand, but I don't buy it. Because there's only one way, and that's the way of love. And love is going to guide me in new ways every moment. It's going to take me in new directions if I allow. And this is what happened to Paul. Paul's the other example. Paul goes out, and he has an experience. It's not contained within his mind. He doesn't understand what it is. All he knows is that he goes from being this tormenting presence to being knocked off his horse and blinded And he hears the voice of Jesus say, "Why do you persecute me? Why are you doing this?" And he has to go to this one house that he's guided to, and the scales are washed off his eyes, and suddenly he can see. And when he finally sees, in other words, he's having an experience now that cannot be contained. And he says, "I'm not going to contain this." Peter even goes so far to call him his enemy, to call Paul his enemy, not his brother. Because you have that aspect that says, no, it has to be this way, it has to be contained here. And Paul says, no, it cannot be contained. The light of Christ and the experience cannot be contained. It has to expand and expand and expand. So he begins to take it everywhere, to the non-Jews. Oh, now we have a whole nother situation going on. But you know, they're not circumcised. They're not following the law. They're not doing this. They're not doing this. They're not allowing the experience to be contained within their minds. They're letting the Christ itself work through and as them. And this is the only reason why that Christ experience expanded throughout the whole world. Otherwise, it would have been contained. But the expansion in the whole mind that came through a direct experience of the energy of Christ that Paul had took it to a level that cannot even be imagined. But what we are always trying to do is to avoid that expansion, that unlimited expansion. And the way that we do that is by staying in the spin cycle. Staying in the spin cycle of the ego, which is constantly keeping us turning and turning and turning, so we get so damn dizzy, we don't know what the heck is going on. The spin cycle. Isn't that interesting? We could also call it the circle of fear. How we allow all of these worries and concerns to keep us in that spin cycle so that we never know which way is up and which way is down. And there's one way to get out of that circle of fear, and that's to stop spinning, to hold still. That's what this is. That's what this joining is. For even a short period every day, we come together and we say, especially on a day like this, a day of silence, let's just hold still within the experience of God. To be still within the experience of this unlimited expansion that's happening through and as each one of us right now. Now, we may not go into foreign lands and share this with people who are speaking different languages and have different ideas. Maybe, but probably not. But we can do it right where we stand. The unlimited expansion is not about more. It's about now. It's not about let's get more of this or more people watching the Zoom call or more people at Namaste. That's the same as trying to limit it. That's the Jerusalem experience. That's like saying, let's get all the Jews on the same page. Instead of saying, let's get everyone on the only page there is. Let's let it expand out in ways that we can't imagine, that we can't even control. This light can't be controlled. We try. We're constantly trying to hold it in, to say, no, it has to be done in this way. Close the doors. Don't let anybody else in. So once again, it's not about more, it's about now, right now. And that's what's happening right here, right now. As we come together for this short period of time every morning, and we just enter into his presence would I enter now. It's like walking into a temple or a cathedral and just holding still and letting the energy take you. So once again, are we going to contain this, or are we going to let it expand without limits? You are called to expand without limits, each and every single one of us. That's what the experience is. What does that line say again in the beginning of the introduction? For now we seek only the direct experience of truth. Only the direct experience, that alone. And we're not trying to talk about it. We're not. This is not like studying something so that we can go out and then proselytize. The only thing that's going to allow this to expand is not your words, but your presence. When we say the prayer, into God's presence would I enter now, we're really allowing that presence to come alive within us. And the presence does the teaching. The presence is the only thing that we need. And that's why St. Francis said, we're to teach the gospel wherever we go, but only when necessary to use words. It's the presence, not the words. So, Jerusalem or expansion? Limit or unlimited? It's up to you. So, Vicky, let's bring you in here. What would you like to share with us this morning?
Good morning, Brother James, and thank you for such a beautiful opening and for singing one of, I know, many of our favorite centering prayers in quiet. So, I woke up and I was all excited that it's Wednesday. Because Wednesday, with this new, joining in quiet, is a way of joining in being present, just like you're speaking about, a present that expands beyond everything that I would have in my thinking mind. But it does start with what is in my thinking mind. And the way to stop the spin cycle, the way to unplug the machine so it stops spinning, because it's stuck on spin many times. We know what that's like. Is to pull the plug of engaging any of it and simply looking at all of it and looking at it with a smile, not with a heaviness, like, oh, I have these terrible thoughts. Oh, I have this judgment or that. It's the all-inclusiveness of love. In silence, if love is the language of spirit, then even our worst thoughts, if we look at them as foolish, they're silly, all of them. And, Jesus says, what isn't love is hatred. It's murder. From mild to wild, from mild irritation to wild rage. It's all the same. And it's like the little ego is raising its big voice, trying to thunder that we are subject to all this. And we are subject to nothing but love. And when we look with love upon our silliest thoughts, the rageful ones, the mild ones, they start falling away because the plug is out. We pulled the plug of engaging them and believing them and following them and trying to do something with them or fix them or change them. It isn't our job. It was simply our job to welcome love and be in just this moment now and look at everything that crosses our awareness with love. Love is the answer to everything, no matter the question. So when we look at our hurtful thoughts, our sad thoughts, even our happy thoughts, all of them, if we look with love on all of them, the fierceness of them starts dissolving. It's like the magic formula. It dissolves what isn't like itself. And it's not by our effort or by our understanding. It's by our welcoming and our willingness to let love answer everything. So today, as I awoke, I was watching the thoughts in my mind, and I saw, oh, someone said something, and I was going to say, oh, she shouldn't say this or that. Oh no, look at that with love. And how foolish for me to think I would know anything. How foolish. It's just kind of silly. And when we start laughing at ourselves, we can laugh at everything that we think we could kill love. That's essentially what judgment is. And we can't, but when we offer love to everything, even our own fearful thoughts, nothing happens. They don't get bigger anymore. They are disempowered because there's nothing sustaining them. There's no resistance anymore, holding them in place or keeping the spin going. So today I'm reading everything with love. What does love do? Love welcomes. It may wonder, like, I don't know how this extends or what my next step is to be, but I'll welcome it and I'll know it in my heart because the language of the heart is love, the prompts of love. We all know those prompts of love. They're not a mystery. They're something very simple. But we have been so complicated by thinking we live in the spin cycle that we haven't tuned to the simplicity of recognizing love's prompts. So a day of silence, or the truth is, we're called to a life of silence, silence of the ego spinning. We're called to a life of living and listening to the pulse and the heart of love. We're called to that now and every now, to rest in that now, and it'll bring us to whatever's next, whatever the next step of unfoldment might ever be. We'll find ourselves in it, and we'll be rushing with joy to give of whatever is given us to give. But all we're ever asked to do is, and that's what you're talking about in the workbook, opening to the second part of the workbook, the direct experience of God is the prompts of love that come to us in our heart. Some moments they are revelatory and the lights go on everywhere and we see the spaciousness of what's always been in front of us that we didn't see before, but sometimes we don't. We only see the situation that may be at hand, where a brother is in front of us that we can greet with a smile and with welcome and with love and wonder at the brilliance of their soul, because we're focusing on that brilliance everywhere. That brilliance is what love is. So it's just a focus today and hopefully every day that we focus and let love be our language, our way of life, our guide, our direction. It brings us into the natural interconnection that is what life is. And it's in already in every language, whatever anyone calls it. Native Americans and the primitive people always had natural understanding for interconnectedness. It's really been the Western mind mostly that has really been bent on deciding to separate everything out in division. But the world that we see is the covering up of the world of interconnection. What do they call it in African? Ubuntu. Everything is connected as one. We belong to that. And silence tunes us to that language that's always singing in us, not just speaking. It's singing in us. It's singing in our heart and waiting for us to enjoy it. So a day of silence is a day of, I'm going to listen and enjoy it. I'm going to listen to it in everything around me. That's all it is for me. And when my thoughts come up where I see I've been judging, I listen to those and let them go. I don't resist them, but I can smile at the silliness and the foolishness of, it's like watching little children try and play grown up or try and play king of something. It's king of a sandbox or something. That's what we've been doing. And there's nothing horrible about it. It's just not so, it's just silly. And when we can laugh at it, instead of condemn it and condemn ourselves, condemn our brother, condemn anything, we're out of the spin cycle. We can just relax. and be where we are and discover presence that is forever opening, forever grand, grand and giving. It's grand and giving with gratitude. Our hearts fill with gratitude. That's all we're asked to do. Live this day with gratitude that love is our way and that we all recognize the way. So today we're devoted to just allowing love to lead us. That's the experience that I know. And if it opens to something, revelatory in another way, so be it. But love is always maximal. That's all we need to know. When we fall into it, it communicates, it fulfills everything. It allows everything to be welcome without attachment. No attachment, like however it shows up. It doesn't matter because there's no dependency on the form it shows up in. So there's no need to discipline ourselves against this or against that. Attachments fall away as part of the foolishness and silliness. Fear of change falls away because what we are centered in is the only constant, that presence of love. So things can come and go on the outside and we can enjoy them. So that's what I have to say, Brother James. And I join you in this day of silence at the beach, though. Thank you. I love it.
Thank you, Vicky.
I love you all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
We love you too. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Yes, a day of silence to enter into that sacred presence that is always present. The presence that is always present. But we are usually so unpresent that we don't enjoy. So this is just a day, a moment to come together and be present to that sacred presence. And anything that takes us away from that is not worthy of us. I'd like to close with a paragraph that I read from Anandamaya Ma. She says, "To be a human being, the most noble, irreproachable line of conduct should alone be acceptable. It is a matter of great rejoicing if anyone strives to mold their life upon this pattern. Only actions that kindle one's divine nature are worthy of the name of action. All the rest are non-action, and so they're a waste of energy. The only thing that's worthy of you is that which kindles love. And everything else is just non-action, and it's not worthy of you. Any line of behavior that fails to quicken the divine in you should be eschewed, ignored, no matter how enticing it may appear. But any that help you to awaken to your inherent divinity, anything that awakens you to that, must be resolutely adopted, even though it can sometimes seem uninviting. Even though it's challenging sometimes, because it means throwing out all the things that we thought we needed. Man's calling is to aspire to the realization of truth, to tread the excellent path that leads to immortality. The excellent path that leads to immortality. But to get to that place, you have to be willing to throw out your darlings. Right, Scott? Scott is going through this right now. He's putting the finishing touches on a book that he's been working on for a long time. And he's come to the most difficult stage of that, just as many of us have come to a very interesting stage of our awakening. There comes a point in any creative project where you have to go through it again and throw out some of the darlings that you thought were so good, but don't serve the direction, the clear direction or path that whatever the project is trying to get to. I've been through this many times. You have to go through, maybe a book should be 50,000 words and yours is 120. You're going to have to throw out a lot of darlings. And it's hard, but these are all the thoughts in my mind that I have made sacred, that I've made important. But as Ananda Maya Ma is saying, any line of behavior that fails to quicken the divine in you must be ignored and thrown out. Just because something is darling in our mind doesn't mean that it's what is taking us to that unlimited expansion that Paul went through and that we are called to go through. So maybe today, in the time that you spend in silence, whether it's the whole day or an hour or whatever it is, just be aware of some of those darling thoughts and attachments that come into your mind. And just say, okay, you can pass now, because I only want one thing, the experience of my own divinity, my own divine nature, only that. Nothing can come between me and that right now. That's what a day of silence has meant to inspire. And together, silently, we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.